Hey there, YouTube, it's Kurt here. We're going to discuss how to beat Eldlich. And Eldlich is a very popular deck right now, and it probably will be a meta deck in the upcoming format. What I want to say about it, there are some key cards that do stop this deck. Even though the deck has a lot of recursion, if you're able to get a little bit of footing on the deck, then you'll have a much easier time. Obviously, like things like Cosmic Cyclone should come to mind, because if you banish their back row, that's a lot easier. Sometimes they do occasionally run into a bricky hand, but the deck is still pretty consistent overall. Cosmic Cyclone will help you out a little bit with that. You can either chain it to the activation of one of the trap cards, and that'll banish it. That's a very good effect. Or you can do things like Lightning Storm. These are the obvious things, but I want to go over probably the two most powerful cards. Now, one card that hasn't seen much play, but I think it has great utility. I play it in my Salamangreat deck because, like, sometimes the deck loses to Nibiru, but there's other things that you can shut off. If you want to shut off, like, an evenly matched from your opponent, if they're playing, like, Ultrageist or something, then you slap down Prohibition. I like it. But Prohibition is really, really good against Eldlich because the entirety of the deck of pure Eldlich centers around activating the effect of Eldlich at some point in the game and getting it onto the field. And if you shut off that opportunity, if you Prohibition declare Eldlich the Golden Lord, if you do that on their first turn, essentially they cannot play the deck at all. And a lot of times they do have built-in spell and trap removal, so they won't do things like have Cosmic Cyclone in their deck. So you just slap Prohibition on the board, and the effects of the traps don't get their extra destroy or extra banish, anything like that. And if that resolves, you basically just won the game, because their deck just poops out after that. There's almost nothing that they can do if you Prohibition their Golden Lord, because the deck revolves so heavily on that singular card. Obviously, sometimes you can DD Crow the Golden Lord, but they don't really care. I think a lot of people are just playing 3 copies, maining 3 copies, and it's very searchable. You can pretty much always have access to it. So I wouldn't recommend something along those lines. If you play a deck that can do like Dimension Shifter, that can be good as well. But that's the main thing. Prohibition, if you go first and you set up a Prohibition, you basically just won that game. And a lot of times it's a good tech for going second too, because they don't always get on the field. And if you get it off of the field, then you can set up your Prohibition, and they will have no more place from there. But obviously, the number one card that will counter the deck going second is going to be Evenly Matched. I don't think there's any replacement for Evenly Matched in this matchup whatsoever. It's a pricey card right now, which sucks, but there's not competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Going on right now, so you can just use it on Dueling Book, try it out. Evenly Matched will win you a large majority of the games you use it versus Eldlich, just because a lot of times they'll set 3, get Eldlich on the board, and pass, and once you banish all of those resources, the deck relies on having like 2 cards that are always firing to get themselves recursion. And if they lose too much, it's just really, really hard to set up things after that. Yeah, that's basic. It's basically game over. They can, of course, counter it, but at that point, if you're evenly matched resolves, you're going to be sitting pretty well there. And obviously they main deck cards like Skill Drain and Imperial Order. Evenly Matched is not going to really care about those. If you really get desperate, you can. This is very situational, but I feel like it's very matchup dependent. Royal Decree could work against the deck. Royal Decree is not a bad tech necessarily, but I think it's very situational. But if you hate the deck bad enough, it will work. So set up Royal Decree, and you will get the wins there. Basically, if you don't have these things, a general way to try to beat this deck, if you don't have these things at your disposal, one more note that I want to say is that a lot of times if they activate their trap and you could destroy it by battle, a lot of times you don't want to. You want to save that for perhaps your next turn if they don't have Golden Lord, because that trap will get further recursion. If you can set up next turn to OTK before that trap goes to grave and then activates in the end phase, that's what your goal is. So a lot of times you don't want to destroy a monster by battle if you have the opportunity to do so. If you think you can set up and push for game the next turn, then it's smart to wait. And these are the best things that I can recommend for this matchup specifically, and hopefully you guys have a much easier time of beating this deck. That's all I got for today. This is Kurt. Feel free to subscribe. Get on my Patreon or whatever if you want to do that. And peace.